You have one of those jobs where I feel like your title doesn't fully capture everything that you do.
Yeah, I think I've had the privilege of being the founding executive director. So no one had this job before me. No one told me how to do it. I really had the opportunity to dream with our chairman and CEO, founder of Eagles Autism Foundation, Lurie.
So, how do you explain to someone what you do if they've never heard of the Eagles Autism Foundation before?
It was explosive growth. We were in a situation where all of a sudden Andy Reid enters the scene and he's coaching and we're making the playoffs every year. We opened what's now Jefferson Health Training Center. We've then moved to open the stadium. I got to be a part of all these incredible opportunities. And being young, I got to raise my hand because, the Eagles are a family business.
That's a lot of emotional weight.
Oh, yeah.
How do you balance that? I know you said you don't separate when you get home. How do you make space to carry all of that in one Ryan Hammond? Welcome to Law Meets Life, presented by Pondley Hockey, where conversations go beyond the courtroom and into the people, experiences, and moments that define who we are. I'm your host, Katie Fry, and today's guest is the executive director of the Eagles Autism Foundation, Ryan Hammond. Ryan, thank you so much for being here today.
I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm thrilled to have you here. We have so much to talk about.
We do. Let's
Even
get into
before
it.
we started rolling these cameras, I feel like we already have so many things to talk about.
Yes, the Yap session has officially begun, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. So you have one of those jobs where I feel like your title doesn't fully capture everything that you do. And I, after doing research on you, believe you are Superwoman.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you.
Like
Very
you are
flattering.
Superwoman.
It takes a great village behind you to, put the cape on.
I like that statement.
Thank you.
So how do you explain to someone what you do if they've never heard of the Eagles Autism Foundation before?
Yeah, I think I've had the privilege of being the founding executive director. So no one had this job before me. No one told me how to do it. I really had the opportunity to dream with our chairman and CEO, founder of Eagles Autism Foundation, Lurie. And when we talked about the goals for what this would be, what this could be, we really started with the basics of, what do we want to accomplish? We wanted to, one, give representation for the autism community, which is now 1 in 31 individuals. We've seen that prevalence rate continue to increase since we've launched this initiative. 2, we wanted to be an NFL sports team that was synonymous with a cause. And I think you see the power of sports, the ability to bring people together, to have the captive audience and the passionate fans, and for us, Eagles everywhere.
Yeah.
And how do we lean into that and create a positive conversation about autism, to have resources, be unique, and then the flip side is raise millions and millions of dollars. So these ambitious goals of not just bringing people together, but channeling that into philanthropy. So I think when we set out, it was asking those really simple questions with Jeffrey and understanding that he wanted every dollar to make a difference. And I was like, great. So we can engage sponsors to help support our operating in addition to the commitment of the Philadelphia Eagles organization. But every dollar that someone donates is going to be invested in research or care. And that was just a really important standard that we set coming out of the gate. So if you're a donor, you can tell me what year you supported. I can tell you what projects you funded. And again, that came from this simple statement from Jeffrey of he wanted every dollar to count. And I think for us, looking at the Eagles organization and being so ambitious with autism back in 2018, it was still, there was stigma associated with it. People weren't raising their hand to self-identify. There weren't these employment initiatives that we've seen evolve over the past few years. And I think it forced us as an organization to say, if we're going to tell everyone this is what's most important to us off the field, then we need to make sure we're the best at being inclusive. So it really then became an audit of the Eagles organization when it came to fan experience and community engagement and how inclusive were we? Because we needed to be sure that we were keeping this community in mind in everything we did fundamentally as an organization that allowed us the privilege to ask people to support this cause. So really excited to share that, we were the first NFL team to open a sensory room and create resources for inclusion when it came to a game experience. Lincoln Financial Field, no reentry rule. What do you do when you're having a hard time? This sensory room seemed to be a really great tool for us to address that issue. We've since had visual schedules so you can go proactively before you go to a game and say, what can I expect, from walking through security to knowing when those fireworks are going to go off to tell you to get to your seat
Yes,
because the game's about
yes.
to start, being aware of where resources are available at guest services, making sure that everyone understands our staff is trained. So all 600 plus staff members at Lincoln Financial
Wow.
Field that you're going to interact with understand what your needs are. And it's really just about continuing that throughout, everything we do with intention.
Wow.
And that's just evolved. So, I obviously, like, it's a long story for 10 years, but
Sure.
we were able to really identify that accessibility point and, not just extend from fan experience, but what happens when we have football clinics for kids. And we had brave parents that called us and said, I know you care about autism. And is my child a fit at your football camp or your
Mm,
cheer clinic? And it allowed us to ask the question, what about the parents who aren't calling us, who assume their child's not a fit because they have
right.
different needs? And so everything that we're offering from like those types of engagements are inclusive, but also putting the intent behind it with creating all abilities clinics.
Right.
And then probably our last component of what we've done is the employment initiative. So recognizing that 85% of individuals with autism are unemployed, and knowing that, having a paycheck and a sense of community is truly life-changing, not just for the individual, but their families.
Absolutely.
So we piloted an all-inclusive game day staff program through Eagles Autism Foundation with 3 people. We now support 50 individuals at Lincoln Financial Field that have
Wow.
autism.
Ryan, that's amazing.
It's life-changing. And, to
Truly.
have the ability to say, what do you do with your paycheck? And sometimes it's buy pizza,
Yeah.
and other times, it's to pay their bills. And what we've heard from families of the sense of belonging and
Mm,
community, we just continue to invest in those programs and the friendships that are formed. We had a kiddo whose mom said, he didn't have people coming to his birthday party when he
mm.
was younger, but he had a birthday party in his early 20s at Topgolf, and every person on the game day staff that are on his team showed up and enjoyed golf. And, it was just awesome to see like that moment that everyone deserves in their life
Yeah.
of like feeling celebrated with their friends,
Mhm.
and it all being possible from this program. And more importantly, the lens of inclusion in which we practice everyday life at the Eagles.
100%. And you and I talked about this right before we started rolling. Time. And how we can't believe we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of the Eagles Autism Challenge. And so many things have changed over that time
Oh, yeah.
with the autism community. And you've grown with it. So I want to go back in time to 2017 when you got that phone call from Jeff Lurie. What went through your mind when you hung up that phone?
So I think I should start with a little bit of history that I started my career at the Eagles as an intern in 98, 99,
Oh
and
my
I was
gosh.
full-time for the team from 2000 to 2008. And it was such an interesting time because it was explosive growth. We were in a situation where all of a sudden Andy Reid enters the scene and he's coaching and we're making the playoffs every year. We opened what's now Jefferson Health Training Center.
Yes.
We've then moved to open the stadium. I got to be a part of all of these incredible opportunities. And being young, I got to raise my hand because, the Eagles are a family business. And so I got to contribute in ways that I never imagined at where I was in that point of my life and even my career. And to be able to grow within an organization and feel like the possibilities truly are endless set the stage for just like my trajectory, my future. I met my husband. We got married. We had 3 daughters in 37 months. I
Oh
was
my
still at the
gosh.
Eagles when I had my second, but when I was expecting my third, I think it was a wake up call that I couldn't pass along like 3 car seats
Yeah.
on a game day. And I really like took that experience where I felt I mourned leaving my dream job, the
Mm.
dream organization, and what did I want to be when I grew up at that point. And, it really led me to nonprofit. So coincidentally, I didn't plan for Jeffrey and I to stay connected when not that I didn't admire his
Yeah.
work or I wouldn't be a fan, but to stay connected in a way that we did. But I went to St. Joseph's University, and a donor, a very generous family, the Hondros family, started the Kinney Center for Autism Education and Support. And while I was newer, tenured into the, higher education world, coming from the Eagles and having that ambition and work ethic and connections positioned me to help them build that center. And so helping them orchestrate from the ground up with their leadership gift allowed me to think about the autism community every day. And that was something that was very important to Jeffrey, with his brother being on the spectrum. And so when he connected with me, I never would have thought my journey with autism that started in 2009 would have led me back to the Eagles. But I knew so much of what the needs of the community were, being
Mm.
so ingrained in like providing services and resources and support every single day at the Kinney Center. So when I first talked to him, I was like, we can have an event and raise like $1 million. We're the Eagles. I'm like, or we can change the world. And like, that's truly
Wow.
like my immediate reaction is knowing that platform, these fans, Jeffrey's leadership. I really, truly saw that this trajectory was possible for the Eagles Autism Foundation and he immediately was like, yes, let's do that. Let's change the world. Because I think it's easy to conceptualize how an organization like the Eagles can have a fundraising event and do well.
Sure.
But really, to be in a situation where we're growing year over year, I mean, this year we raised over $16 million. We're less than, we're a baby
Wow.
foundation. We're less than 10 years, in this. But we've done this so thoughtfully. And because this is so important, if you ask Jeffrey, the organization truly understands kind of like the priorities, right?
Yeah.
It's to win a Super Bowl and the success of this foundation because this is truly his legacy and it allows him to honor his mom as a
Mm.
philanthropist and someone who led his family to giving over $100 million in autism research his
Wow.
entire life and to be able to bring his brother and his story in such an important way.
Ryan, that's amazing. The way I see your career trajectory, because I love that career trajectories change and they shift, and that at any point in time you can sit back and be like, who do I want to be when I grow up? It's not something you decide when you're 18,
Yeah.
it changes over time.
I think I asked myself that question when I was coming back to the Eagles, like who do I want to be when I like get to lead this organization and just like what happened my first time around that I can be really thoughtful and mindful to support other women
Mm.
and who are having children at the Eagles and creating a space for them to be able to raise their families and to create flexibility and even recognize like I have a staff of mostly women and
Wow.
giving them the confidence to say like this is what I need and this is what's going to help me be successful and how to access professional development and being able to stand in a room and command attention like that's my goal is to not only make the difference in my career or in people's lives, but also that mentorship that's so important and the next generation of women leaders that, and as a mom of 3 girls, like, right, that's
Yes,
what's really important.
absolutely. You are one of the most driven people I think I've ever talked to in my
Oh,
life.
well, thank you.
Where does that drive come from?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like obsessed with like it really like I mean, you can ask like folks on my team, like this is not a job for me. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
I am Ryan Hammond, Eagles Autism Foundation every single day. There's no compartmentalizing me or this role or my family. My daughters have been engaged volunteers for the foundation since I walked back in the door. My husband is an expert at carrying boxes or making connections and just being an incredible support person. I mean, he's my hype guy and just like aiming for greatness. Like because I feel such a responsibility that
Mm.
this platform is a gift and to not use it appropriately would be so irresponsible of me. So I think like I'm like the person who comes in the morning with like I thought of this last night. Did we do this? And I'm also in constant state of evaluation. I'm
Mm.
never satisfied with us doing it well. It's constantly like but how are we going to do it better? And
That's something I wanted to ask you next is you have just accomplished so much throughout your life. That drive, that sense of responsibility, it's a constant. Do you ever really take a step back and say, wow, I did that?
I mean, sometimes I think like I'm the first person in my family to ever go to college. Like I didn't even know a job like this existed, right? And the fact that I'm in my second startup where there's been no roadmap and it's really been about personality driven leadership. And I think it's the work ethic that my parents taught me and just like grinding it out. I was the top like candy seller in grade school. Like I've always
I
had
love
this
it.
knack for like when I thought back, like I think I had like one of those light bulb moments. I was like, well, I guess I could see this in my like future if I
Yeah.
look back to like fifth grade selling the most like candy bars.
Candy.
Yeah, I think I won a dress down day pass or something for it. So it wasn't for the prize. It was just for the sheer fact of like, I'm going to make a difference in our school and
Yeah.
I'm going to like be the best at this and those kinds of things. So I think it's really like how I was raised and then not taking for granted my education and my parents, like both my parents, my cousins, my aunts and uncles being the first person to go in college and not taking that lightly, that investment and being a good return. And then being able to get an executive MBA. And it's been amazing to just reach for the stars and continuously like move the goal line and keep reinventing what success looks like too. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Now, I do want to talk about Ocean Drive.
Yes.
I think one of the coolest examples of taking something Eagles and turning it into something bigger is the Team 62 at the Ocean Drive event. And I love the story of how casually this whole thing started. So, can you tell me a little bit more about your arcade experience in Sea Isle with Jason Kelce?
Absolutely. So I think I should start with, Jason became really one of the first ambassadors in the locker room for Eagles Autism Foundation. And again, being in a situation where I had the chance to present to the team, so be in front of the players, I don't know if I would consider them a captive audience, but when I was in charge of captivating them, and to be able to leave and share what our goals were for the foundation and what role they could all play and how they're, empowered to make these connections. It was very simple. I said, the power they have sitting in those seats as players for the Philadelphia Eagles, they can change people's lives every day, and it shouldn't feel hard, and they shouldn't be scared. And, I would never ask them to do anything more than add water and stir. Like, that's the complexity of like giving back, what that should be. And so when I talked to Jason, or I talked to the team, Jason kind of talked to me after, and he wanted me to meet his fiance, Kylie, because she was working with the autism community. Her neighbor growing up was on the spectrum, who was like such a huge part of her life. And he told me she wanted to be a volunteer because he was sharing that this was happening at work. And so I reached out to Kylie, and, we became fast friends because we just like had so much passion for giving back and similar personalities. We're both over 5'10", all those other things.
The important things.
Yeah. And this was like early on. Now she surpassed me, but with 4 daughters close in age, like we still have all these things in our life that mirror, each other in so many ways. But we became really good friends. She was a volunteer. Then she worked full time for the foundation, running event consulting. So like sending emails to get the permit to close down Broad Street for our cycling. And finally, as her life changed, we had to reimagine her role.
Wow.
But before that, we were, out in Sea Isle, one of our favorite places. We're now neighbors down there. They were renting like still at the time. And we were out at the arcade, and Jason might have taken us 500th photo. And I was like, it'd be great if you put like a QR code on the back of your phone that they could scan and donate every time, people ask for photos, you can give back. And, we were just joking about it. And he was like, I would do a fundraiser here. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, let's think about what you're good at. And, we concluded he was pretty good at drinking beer in the off season. And I called the, Ocean Drive. I knew their owner. My daughter was good friends with their daughter. And the next day, the manager showed up, yellow legal pad, pencil in his ear, and a bag of sprinkle donuts for my daughters. And so the only issue is we were up against, they were renting at the time. So their lease was about to be up, the 30th of June. So we had to get it in. So we planned it in 8 days. We had no idea what it would be.
8 days.
Oh, yeah. And we were just like on the fly, like, okay, our team, the Eagles Autism Foundation team was so small at the time. And everyone just kind of like chipped in, all hands on deck, like, okay, we'll sell raffle tickets. We'll use the door. The bartenders will donate the tips. And we raised over $50,000. And Jason was like, this was the most fun, like raising money ever. And they matched it. And so that first year we started with $100,000. And it just like easily became an event that we wanted to replicate. So by year 2, Travis is attending. And so, now he's behind the bar. And if you go back to the New Heights podcast, he wears Eagles Autism t-shirts to support us. I've been a guest on New Heights with them. So they've given me their platform that they've shared to talk about the mission of the foundation, which has been incredible. And then it's my job, just like every day, is to audit and say, like, how can we do this better? How can we bring in partners that are mission aligned, that want to make a difference? And that's really what led us to Pond Hockey. And, this year we hit our 2nd consecutive year raising over $1 million. And to think about it, right, our footprint didn't change. We can't just add all of these people.
Yep.
Other than a very limited number of VIP tickets, it's still $10 to get in.
Yeah.
We lean into the authenticity of what going to Jersey Shore bar is.
Right.
And all that kind of goes back to Jason, right? I always want to honor who he is and not make him into something he's not in the name of giving back. So I work around his preferences and find different ways incrementally to, bring in support with awesome partners. And I mean, it's one of the most fun days ever. And then other players join.
Yep.
And they have a great time. We had Alona Mar this year.
Oh my gosh.
Is, like,
so
she's
iconic.
An icon. I mean, really, she's
Truly an
absolutely
icon.
incredible.
My jaw was on the floor. And
She already reached out to find out when next
did
year's
she
event
really?
was.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yeah, so shout out to Alona.
Yeah, Alona, if you're
Yeah, hopefully you're
watching,
watching.
come join the podcast. I love you.
Yeah, she's so incredible. But yeah, I think like that's the thing. People, Dan Orlovsky from ESPN
Yeah.
had come this year, and people experience it, and they're like, "This is actually wild." And by the way, we just raised $1 million in like 36 hours. How?
Right.
So I think our fans come out and
Mhm.
they're like, donating $100 for something to be signed. I'll unname some of the things that get signed at that event. But yeah, it's just been awesome. And I think it's in the spirit of giving back. It's in the spirit of supporting the community. We've had so many magical moments happen with fans. And yeah, I think Jason kind of believed in me pulling something off. I made it easy for him
Yeah.
to give back that Add Water and Stir. It became a huge success. And I never asked him to compromise what his goals were. And I've been able to kind of flex in from a strategic way of bringing in partners
Yeah.
or, having the Pond Hockey Flip Cup games where people donated $1,000 to play around
play
the Flip
Flip Cup.
Cup with Jason and friends.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I think we haven't looked back, and we already know that the event is next June 30th.
June 30th.
Yeah,
Okay.
there we go. So it's always the week leading into July 4th.
Uh-huh.
It's just so beneficial. Like the Ocean Drive, they're not necessarily that busy leading into the holiday week. So it's a night for them that becomes like a July 4th holiday on a
Yeah.
Wednesday. And so we get to like work with their incredible team, and they're just
What
like
a
the
great
answer
space,
is
too.
yes.
Yeah.
It's funny when we had some other partners this year, and they're like, "Can we have a production call?" And I was like, "Let me just break it down for you." We're at a Jersey Shore establishment where we have Kathy, Mayo, and Furdog as the cast, the supporting cast, and their answer is going to be yes. So regardless of what your question is, like they're just going to be like, "Okay, we'll figure it out." I said, "So I don't know, like this whole production call might be too sophisticated. I think you should just get your list of like what you need done." And they're like the Get Shit Done crew, and yeah, there's nothing that we've come to them with. I don't know if you remember a couple years ago, we filled a baby pool full of Jell-O and hid
gosh.
golden babies. And so I had asked them if they could make us a giant Jell-O shot, meaning like a pool of Jell-O, and people dug through to find the golden babies. And they were like, "Yeah, sure."
Oh my
And had like
gosh.
20 bouncers carry this Jell-O pool out. And
This event truly is a fever dream.
it
Like-
really is. Yeah. Yeah. So I know it's been like the unintended consequences of raising money is that we've raised this incredible amount over the years, but we've done it in a way where it's been more fun than anything else. And it keeps players and celebrities coming back in addition to fans already marking their calendar and like waiting to see what the next year will bring.
Absolutely. I'm so excited you shared the June 30th
Yeah.
date with us. We're already going to get moving on
There we
that.
go.
I love it. But something that's a common theme among all of the guests we've had on this season is meeting people where they're at.
Absolutely.
And you met Jason Kelce where he was at. You met Jeffrey where he was at. And I think that in and of itself is a superpower. Has there been another opportunity in your life where you've had to meet somebody where they're at and something fantastic has come of it?
I mean, honestly, it's the story of the Eagles Autism Foundation, meeting the autism community and families where they are. I think that has been a pathway for accessibility, for celebration, for inclusion, for employment. You mentioned having a connection to Wawa earlier, and I have a lot of affinity for Wawa, not just because I grew up in Delaware County, but because, the partnership that they've had with us. And so quick story is Frank Umeni, our chief operating officer, is at the Rutgers Ohio State football game and comes back from the game and plops a bag of popcorn on my desk. Popcorn for the people, made by adults with autism. And he's like, "Look at this. It's like our mission." And so we call Aramark, and Al, who runs our Aramark at the stadium, Al Austin, we talk about the opportunity to have this popcorn that's mission aligned and something you would eat at a sports event. Like, we're not asking for charity here. We're asking for let's lean into this opportunity. Al immediately helped us set up like a pop-up concession stand, sold popcorn at the game, brought the adults with autism who made the popcorn, getting it to interact with our fans. And then we wanted to help them do more. And so we were looking at potentially opening a popcorn factory in the stadium. And so if you've ever built a house or construction project, you have a number, they tell you what it's going to be, and then all of a sudden they start to scope it out and it becomes much more. So originally we thought it was going to be $1 million. We worked with one of our partners, Norion. They were like, "Okay, we're going to do a match of $500,000 to help you get to $1 million." And it was a magical experience. Well, we had our $1 million and then we got the bill and it was like 2.7 million.
Oh.
And so while it was extremely like defeating in that moment, I just didn't waver. I was like, this is going to happen somehow, some way. And that same week I ended up speaking at Wawa with Chris Geisens, their CEO.
Yes.
And we come off from the conversation with all of the associates there. And he said, you're creative. Like, what would you do with a closed Wawa in Philadelphia that's like kind of mission related? And I was like, oh, I'd open a popcorn factory. And like 11 months later, we turned the 9th and South location of a closed Wawa into a popcorn factory for popcorn for the people. It didn't cost us $1 million because Wawa became a partner where they subleased for $1 a year to be able to employ adults and give them a place that's safe for them to work and be themselves. And then we took some of the funding and built a state-of-the-art concession stand at Lincoln Financial Field. And so our friends making the popcorn get to come to every game day and then have tasting and selling bags to all of our fans at the stadium. And we've been able to include them in not just our Eagles games and our special events. They got to be a part of World Cup. So I mean, that's the story of me. Like, I get to meet people where they are every day because that's just the nature of serving the autism community, being able to be there for parents who maybe aren't always heard or their child's not celebrated. And I get to do really special things with them. And we had a conversation today with a mom because Cooper DeJean is doing his own partnership. And through his partnership, they were like, can you identify a family? And he came right to Eagles Autism and said, can you help me select a family that would benefit from, having a renovated space in their home? And so we identified a young girl on the spectrum who, has sensory differences, is a toe walker. She's going through physical therapy and going through these challenges, single mom. And we got to call the mom today and say, hey, we'd like to renovate your daughter's space and make it more sensory inclusive and help with her physical therapy needs with being able to do it daily outside of the therapist bringing in the equipment. And by the way, it's all going to be thanks to Cooper DeJean and him thinking about this in this partnership. And it's just, those are the things that we get to do. And the mom in the conversation, she was beyond one that we chose her and we get to do something for her family and how she's just so grateful for what we've done for her. She didn't expect anything else. But that's been another awesome part of this journey is to we've sent people to the Super Bowl. We've given them their first job. We're renovating a house. We've opened a popcorn factory.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
And I think it's really important to say that the popcorn for the people is delicious.
It's
the best popcorn ever.
It really is. I'm sad that they didn't make the cookies and cream anymore. That was my favorite.
Can we
but
bring
the
it
caramel
back?
And butter are still,
Can we bring it back?
Yeah, I know. They keep saying they're going to make me a special batch maybe one day. So
if you don't mind, just send them whenever.
There we go. Yeah. You got it. So good.
So good. I want to get into talking a little bit more about Kylie Kelce.
Sure.
So before we come back with Ryan Hammond, the executive director of the Eagles Autism Foundation, Ponley Hockey has been lucky enough to be part of the Ocean Drive event through our partnership with the Eagles. And this year, we got to catch up with a very special guest while we were there.
Welcome to a special episode of Law Meets Life. I'm your host, Katie Fry, and today we are live at the Ocean Drive in Sea Isle, New Jersey. Jason Kelce's in here. Kylie Kelce's in here. There's Eagles players behind me, including our own founding partners, Tom Giordano. So there's so much action. 20,000 people are having the time of their lives, playing beer games, getting free merch, giveaways, raffles. It's all happening to help raise money for the Eagles Autism Foundation with Team 62. You're not going to believe who we're talking to today. I'm so excited to get to have a conversation with this person. So let's go check it out.
Paper anywhere. I know that paper anywhere.
Perfect. Amazing. Kylie Kelce.
Yes.
Stocks pound cake connoisseur.
Yes, very much so.
Your friends at Ponley Hockey wanted to gift you a fresh pound cake.
I'm going to be the most popular person in O'Donnell's Poorhouse tonight. I'm going to share. Not well, though. Thank you so much for recognizing that because it will never be me getting vanilla. Ever. I mean, I'll eat it if I have to.
We know our girl. We
Yes.
know our girl.
Thank you so much.
Kylie, thank you for being here, first of all.
Thank you for being here with us.
This is a cause that's really important to us at Pond
I can tell, and that's so amazing. We really appreciate the partnership. It is so exciting to have you guys back again.
We appreciate it.
It's the best.
What does it mean to you to have your family involved in an organization like Eagles Autism Foundation, Team 62?
Well, it's something we're really proud of. It's something that we have been fortunate enough to have a platform, and it's so exciting that we get to use it for something so special like the Eagles Autism Foundation.
What is the thing that you look forward to most at this event every year?
Gosh, I don't know. The unknown, I think. Because every year it's something different. Alona Mar just sold her shirt for $3,000.
Oh my gosh.
And then we chanted USA. It was the most magical thing I've seen in a long
Incredible.
time. But things like that, where it's like you never know what's going to happen, but
I thought you
it
were
was
going to say
perfect.
Jason in his Speedo.
No, but I do think that I missed out on Jason in a beer aquarium or next to a beer aquarium. I'm unsure.
Beer.
We very much do a divide and conquer while we're here.
I love it.
So
Cover the ground that you can.
we have to. It's a large footprint, guys. We have to be
Incredible.
everywhere.
Incredible. What does the impact of the donations that we raised today mean to the Eagles Autism Foundation?
Well, the amazing thing about the Eagles Autism Foundation is that every dollar donated goes directly back into grants that impact the autism community, which means that every single dollar we raise here today is considered donation and therefore is directly impacting that community. It is so exciting to be able to know that all of the grants given are supporting research and projects that can help the autism community continue to move forward.
Absolutely. From one former field hockey player to another.
Oh, the best.
Kylie, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you.
Really
Thank you for your
appreciate it.
continued support. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Enjoy your pound cake.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much.
We're back now with the executive director of the Eagles Autism Foundation, Ryan Hammond. Now, Ryan, you definitely know Kylie Kelce more than I do. In fact, you were recently on her podcast, Not Gonna Lie,
Yeah.
and you two are besties. So what can you tell me about Kylie and her support of the Eagles Autism Foundation that people don't see?
I think describing Kylie's engagement, one, it's been since the beginning. So I would describe it as unwavering. She joined this mission as our first volunteer and then became a part of our team where she was in a working capacity, helping us grow this organization at a critical time as we were making strides in not just increasing fundraising and sponsorship over year, but also serving the community. And despite the fact that her personal life has changed, she was engaged, then she got married. Now she has 4 beautiful daughters and new family members. So I think, the fact that she still makes time to show up is just a testament to who she is. And I think her commitment to this community says a lot. Her commitment to me, as a friend to show up and to be someone that I can bounce ideas off of, and just the respect and admiration that she has for Jeffrey, being a part of the Eagles and what the Eagles have given to her and Jason. And I think she never forgets that. In fact, Jeffrey just received the Humanitarian Award as part of the ESPY Awards. And Jason and Kylie dropped what they were doing, traveled to New York, and were able to present him with that award. And,
Wow.
For ESPN, they're huge stars to be
Yeah.
able to share that night. And knowing that they did it because it was about Jeffrey and the work of the Eagles Autism Foundation, I just don't know how else to describe someone who continuously shows up, who, regardless of the demands on her life and the directions that she's pulled, has continued to prioritize this, and how she shows up, that she's there ready to get on the floor with a kiddo or give a hug to a self-advocate or accept beautiful pieces of artwork from people. I've seen it all. It's been interesting to see her in that working capacity. And now I actually need to make sure she has security because that's definitely changed. But I think she was able to freely be a part of this community from the beginning. And even the adjustments that she's had to make as her fame has grown. We joked in her podcast about a toxic trait. And I'm like, she doesn't believe she's a celebrity, but we can't go to lunch, to dinner, to a store, to the Eagles Autism Challenge without her having a crowd of people who just want to be close to her. And I get it because she's, captivating, she's authentic, and she's just someone that, why wouldn't you want to get to know and be a friend to?
I think we have to give a shout out to Jason too for connecting the two of you. And the fact that he went out of his way after you came to speak and was like, this is an opportunity for my future wife because I know her and I know her heart and this is a heart alignment. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Jason has become a very good friend of mine. There's so many aspects to Jason. Like, obviously, everyone knows him as the incredible athlete and the personality, but he's a scholar and he's, you know, stepped in as like an uncle to my daughters, and he's just someone who loves to play board games and
Saxophone player.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if there's something that he would pursue that he wouldn't be good at.
Yeah.
But again, someone who cares deeply about the community, cares about the fans, understands the impact that he had in those early years of building the foundation. And again, even him staying, you know, continuously loyal and giving back. And he has, you know, developed his own foundation, Be Philly, that's concentrated on helping individuals in our city live a better life, economic mobility. And he's able to wear multiple hats. Like, he's still able to give back to the Eagles because of his roots and kind of what has built him into the icon that he is in the city. But then to take it a step further and start his own foundation with a vision to improve people's lives at another level every single day. So I am a huge fan of his on the field, off the field, and I do give him a lot of credit for matchmaking our friendship.
I love that. Shout out to the husbands that match make friendships.
Yeah.
I love when that happens. And shout out Jason Kelce for being a saxophone player because I am also a saxophone player. And my dream is to one day play saxophone with Jason Kelce, but that's neither here nor there. Speaking of security and this level of celebrity, you're around celebrities all the time. And even though some of them may have just started as friends who weren't celebrities and then their fame grew, it's still part of your job and part of your everyday. Do you ever get starstruck anymore?
Not really. No, I think for me, like, being in this role, I appreciate experiences for sure. But I think like learning to understand like who they are as people and to like forget about what they could do for me or like the things that like I want to know the things that make them special from like a relationship standpoint outside of what has made them famous. So yeah, I think I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of incredible people, and it's just been awesome to see them for who they are. And I mean, it's a very cool experience. I don't want to take it for granted that you've had the privilege to being in rooms where there are celebrities. And in most cases, I've been always met with like who I thought they were. Like I've never had that experience of like, don't meet your hero. Like they might disappoint you. Like everyone that I've met along the way has been just so kind and how can they help the foundation and how can they give back or they appreciate the work that we're doing. So yeah, I got to go to Paris with Kylie when she was filming with Alona, and I got to meet her and her sisters. And I just came off of that experience. We're like in Disney Paris, we're meeting princesses together, we're going on rides, and she was one of the coolest people. But I'm just talking to her about the foundation and Eagles Autism Challenge and Team 62 event. And, you know, next thing you know, she's like on a plane going to the Jersey Shore and guest bartending with us.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think for me is like I have to abandon the being starstruck and like look at it as an opportunity to make a connection and potentially a way to help our community too.
Yeah.
So,
and I feel like if it comes from a genuine place, then meeting them where they're at can start a friendship too. Because when you're genuine and coming to them with genuine intentions, it's not a weird parasocial relationship, you know, it's a genuine want to get to the core of who they are.
Yeah, and it's just being respectful of like their person experiencing life too. And, you know, try not to be disruptive and just meet them with, like I said, that respect and just genuine authenticity that, you know, you can either build a relationship because you align and have things in common, or you can just appreciate who they are.
Well, so well said. We'll be back with more Law Meets Life after a quick message from our sponsor.
Do my eyes play games?
What do you see, Captain? Is it the Redcoats?
No, it's another Pondley hockey billboard. Who here's been injured at work?
We have, sir. It's our fingers, sir. Oh, they ache.
Well then, you know who to call. To the front, march!
These things are everywhere.
Welcome back to Law Meets Life. I'm here with Ryan Hammond, the Executive Director of the Eagles Autism Foundation. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about the autism community because I worked at a nonprofit for over 4 years that worked specifically with the autism community. And one of the things that they had the opportunity to do was go to some Eagles games where they were able to have a full experience, enjoy the entire game day in a very inclusive environment, which is so special. And you were the change maker that made that happen. So it's surreal for me, genuinely, sitting here with you today. What has someone in the autism community taught you that completely changed the way you think about inclusion?
Yeah, I learn from the autism community and their families every single day. I think what's really important to note is that I can have the vision of like, or desire to want to be inclusive, but then making sure I have the most appropriate resources to make that happen. So we actually have a board certified behavior analyst on our team that is
Wow.
developing our resources. So that's super unique to an NFL team to have a board certified behavior analyst that's developing visual schedules or interventions for how to communicate job descriptions, where we're translating paragraphs to bullets and accommodations that we might offer through people's game day experiences. So I think for me, it's like understanding that I can be business savvy or I can be aspirational and inspirational in a way to like bring people together. But it's also about having the appropriate team in place that's going to allow us to truly open our doors, open our hearts, and create these opportunities that, and my friends at Culture City, right, make the nevers possible.
Mm,
And so I think, I learn every single day that, you can't take an experience for granted. And I've seen families have their first Eagles game and they're just so overwhelmed with emotion because one, they're in the same place with all of their children who have very
yeah.
different needs. And they get to experience something together as family. And their one kiddo might be wearing headphones and had visited the sensory room, but the sibling thought that was the coolest thing ever. And they're singing the fight song together.
Mm,
And I think that's what this has been really about. And even through our All Abilities clinics, that's something that just taught me that families need a place where all abilities are celebrated and you can bring a kiddo who just is obsessed with football and maybe an advanced athlete and then their sibling who might be nonverbal with autism and they get to experience this clinic together and they leave with this sense of accomplishment and this transformative experience for a family that typically are going in opposite directions as it relates to meeting their kids' needs.
yeah.
So I think that's where, for me, it's being intentional with everything that we do. It's being explicit with like these resources are available for everyone. And even, I get a lot of questions. Well, my child doesn't have autism, but they have anxiety. And I think that's the other thing that I try and be really mindful of is that a lot of the resources that we develop, well, all of the resources we develop really was in mind with the needs of the autism community.
Hmm.
But the recognition of that commitment that allows so many other people to be served. If you think about our sensory room that's used by veterans who have post-traumatic stress at an Eagles game, or someone who is an athlete and had a concussion and they need to take a break because it's been overwhelming,
Yeah.
or someone with anxiety and, it might be a rain delay and feels too crowded in the concourse of the Taylor Swift concert and, they're
Yeah.
joining and taking a break. So
Mm.
I think that's the understanding that this community has taught us is like resources are impactful and transformative in a way that they create new opportunities for you to enjoy, for you to experience. And, we should be open to them.
Yeah.
And for me, like I have my youngest daughter, she has dyslexia, anxiety, ADHD, OCD. So we got a complex kiddo. And I will say, like, wholeheartedly, being in this space, serving the autism community, helped me be a better mom, helped me understand that, like, one, you need to advocate for your child to have the resources they need to be successful. Two, you can't be afraid of the intervention and subscribing to those resources or
Yeah.
asking, for accommodations in place and seeing that, by utilizing them, they have the chance to live their best life. I think early on, my kids were all in a private school together and I saw my youngest, her needs weren't being met. So at home we had a reading specialist and we were bringing her to speech and we were doing all of these things after school and she was exhausted.
Yeah.
And it was all really for my desire of like keeping them together and sharing that experience. And I think, for me, I can 100% say that working in this space allowed me to like look at it through a different lens and understand like her needs aren't being met because I just don't think it's possible here. And so two went to one school, one went to the other. They're all happy. Our lives got much easier. We stopped having to do intervention, after school hours, and we were now enjoying like family dinners instead of her in another room with her reading specialist. So, I think this community taught me so much more than I feel that I've been able to give them. And I just can't wait to see what's in the future.
That's incredible. So you have worked with a lot of Eagles players throughout the years. Who is secretly the biggest softie?
I mean, surprisingly, these large men, there are more softies than you would imagine. Like I think of someone like Jordan Mailata or like Landon Dickerson, our offensive line. They're some of our largest guys with the biggest hearts and willing to raise their hand and to really do anything for you. We have a new rookie, Jihaad Campbell, who is a local kid who's always been an Eagles fan. And again, just the enthusiasm that he's had to raise his hand and be a part of new things. We had an opportunity to be on national TV to do a segment, and he was a little nervous at first. And then the way up, we took a car service, and we were on FaceTime with his grandpa telling him how to get the channel on and to watch him on TV. And like, that's not what you expect to see from this NFL player, but he was so proud of being a spokesperson for something so important to the team and to be able to give back in his own way. So I will say, we're very fortunate at the Eagles that, we have incredibly talented players on the field and all the accolades they receive, they deserve. But the number of players we have that continuously give back in a new way, and because they have pathways to give back, I think they do it in different ways too. It's just been awesome to celebrate. And I always try, we have players that wear Eagles Autism cleats for My Cause, My Cleats initiative, which is a league-wide initiative where players get to represent a nonprofit. And there's so many incredible nonprofits. It is a crowded space because of how much need there is in the community. But to know that we have 10 plus players selecting Eagles Autism Foundation and wearing that proudly on their cleats during that initiative, like DeVonta Smith. And, he's more on the quieter side, but he gives back in such a big way. And in fact, he just cleared out his locker with some leftover stuff from last year. And our equipment manager, Greg, called me and he said, I have a box of signed cleats from DeVonta that you can use to raise money for the foundation. So the fact that these guys think about us and prioritize us in like I said, in different times, in different ways, it's been awesome.
We've talked about so many moving stories today, from people that you've partnered with that maybe didn't see or understand the mission at first, but then changed and had a change of heart. We've talked about families, the families of the children with autism. We've talked about the children with autism and how that's changed your perspective on being a mother. That's a lot of emotional weights.
Oh, yeah.
How do you balance that? I know you said you don't separate when you get home. How do you make space to carry all of that in one Ryan Hammond?
Yeah, I think balance is such a tricky word to describe, especially women in the workplace, because you're never getting it right. You're either fully, consumed with what you're working on from work, or you're I need to step back and be prioritizing my mom duties today because I'm sending a kid off to college, and it's constantly an evolution. And I think again, trying to not separate it and finding ways to blend it and make it a part of who you are, and operating under the lens of Ryan Hammond, Eagles Autism Foundation, executive director, mom, wife, in an order that rotates every day. And I think, for me, I've been really, really lucky because being in this space with the community, bringing my family along with me, my daughters are, have been some of the only birthday party attendees for kiddos with autism because they've met them through our community and they formed a bond. And that's something that I'm most proud of, is who they are as people and the responsibility they feel to give back, and just to raise kids who care about others and look, they're not on their screen. We were on the beach a week ago and my youngest daughter, Charlie's there, and everything's happening, but she just happened to look up and there was an older gentleman struggling walking on the beach, and she got up without anyone prompting her and went and took his chair. Like, if your kids aren't a part of these types of communities and recognizing when someone might need a hand and then being brave enough to like go do it, I think that's all been a part of my journey. So I like to say that I get to be really lucky to blend my family, what my husband does with the Eagles, and it's just
And great job, Mom.
yeah, I mean, I've met sponsors in line at Acme, like, because I'm like, oh, you just talk to a lot of people, and you get to, like, for me, I'm always observing of what people are doing and special moments, and I don't hesitate when I see a family out with their child with autism to engage and make them feel special, and they don't need to know who I am, like, it's fine, but. Like, I met someone in Lululemon, and I saw their kiddo had an iPad for assistive technology, and we then, like, they found me on, the internet and reached out and were like, hey, we met you, and we didn't know who you were, but then, like, it made sense, and, we then, like, invited them to do something with the team and have a special experience. So I'm kind of lucky, right, that I get to
100%.
be this, like, wish granter along the way, because this place that's what being an Eagle is.
You must sleep so well at night, knowing that at the end of the day, you got to see from start to finish a change in people's lives.
It depends. My Oura Ring might tell you different. It's because sometimes it's hard to, like, turn off, right? Like, sometimes, like, I mean, most days I come in the office with a short list of, like, these are all the things I thought about from between leaving work to this morning that, like, I want to tackle, or I want to make sure we're being intentional and mindful of. And it's sometimes making a connection or reaching out to someone, or something that might bring value to a partner. It's just this constant state that I feel like I'm in. Yeah.
Well, Ryan, before we leave today, I want to play a little game with you.
Okay.
So it's most likely to Eagles Autism Foundation edition. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Most likely to say yes to absolutely anything for Eagles Autism Foundation.
Jeffrey Lurie. I think he's the biggest yes, because once he says yes, everyone else is like yes. So I think definitely for me, like, Jeffrey Lurie, yes.
Most competitive at an Eagles Autism Foundation event.
I mean, besides myself, and like, here's the thing, I'm competing with myself. Like I said, my exercise this summer of, like, okay, we raised X number of dollars, we got there this way. Like, what do I need to beat? Like, we're already looking at Radiothon, and I was like, last year the golf with Saquon and Jason Kelce at Trout National went for $82,000, and I'm like, how am I replacing an $82,000 event? And and now, we have the lunch with Howie Roseman, and Big Dom visited Angelo's Pizza.
I love it.
But I mean, I'm constantly mostly competing with myself. So I'll call that a healthy competition. But everyone feels inclined to do their best for the community. So my hope is that everyone on the Eagles Autism Foundation team feels a sense of competitiveness to be better than they were the day before.
Most likely to make your job harder in the best way possible.
That's a good one. To make my job harder. I mean, I think, not to get, like, too deep, but the autism community with a growing prevalence rate, right? Like, there's so much work to be done. And so I want to see how we can help everyone, and whether it's access to services, diagnosing, a sensory-friendly space. I think for me, it feels endless at times that we can continue to work really hard, and, like, how do we help everyone? So I also think that's where it's making sure we're open to these other organizations and supporting other nonprofits who are doing work, because we can't serve everyone, right? But yeah, I think that's probably, like, a community that has need and deserves every bit of opportunity that we try to create for them. It'll never be finished.
Eagles player or alum who surprised you most with how passionate they became.
I mean, obvious answer, right, is Jason, from where we started to, like, what the last 10 years have looked like. I mean, there's not many players who have been on this trajectory with us the entire time. And I think probably one of the great surprises is probably a Cooper DeJean. I mean, he was turning 22 years old
Wow.
when he came. Like, he was a child, right? Like, and I say that in like the most affectionate way, but he was young. He was coming out of college. He was having a great breakout, rookie season, and he could be doing so many other things. And he's constantly raised his hand. He has constantly presented ideas on how he thinks he can give back. He's including us in conversations and personal things related to his own brand that's not even affiliated with the Eagles. So I think, someone like him who's so young and, the brands, the influencing all the things that exist and how he can make this a priority, like I give him so much credit. I mean, he's just 23 right now. And to think about what he's done in such a short time, and then again, like now Jihaad's following in his footsteps, like these young guys. It's been awesome.
That's special.
Yeah.
Best celebrity bartender.
Eagles player or
Doesn't have to be.
Okay. I mean, I have to give a lot of credit to Alona because she was completely all in.
Oh my gosh, she committed.
Yeah, and we'll have to run it back. Jordan Mailata was very good. He hasn't been there in a couple of years. Landon, year one, came in overalls. Without a shirt on underneath. That was quite the look. And his wife, and that's the other thing, they bring their wives. So we've had Nikki, we've had Brooke, they show up like as like a tag team. And then the wives are like, how do I get my husband to help raise more money? And they're like, offering antics that have generated more support. So yeah, I think there's a lot of amazing, incredibly talented celebrity bartenders, and we hope we just continue to grow that roster.
Do you have a dream celebrity bartender?
I don't think so. I think for me, like, I am so grateful for who shows up, and my dream is that when they show up, that it's one of those magical days for them that makes them want to come back. So I think like my dream is that they come and they come back.
I love that. Who would raise the most money if you gave them 24 hours and no rules?
Oh my gosh. I mean, should I bet on myself? Like,
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, I mean, go Birds. Yeah, I think no, when I think about celebrity, like it's hard not to like put in the Kylie Jason category because they've done it and they've demonstrated it. But I think we have, Annette Schuster, one of our team captains of Mother Solving Puzzles, who raised over $100,000 for Eagles Autism Challenge. We had Santa Rick this year, who is his own like celebrity of Eagles fans, and he raised over $100,000. So I don't know. There's a lot of people that would have a chance in doing some incredible things. And that's what I said. It's definitely like we're very fortunate to have the Eagles and our players and the celebrities that are fans that engage with us in meaningful ways. But then like you have moms and you have fans and you have Ed Callahan, who was fan of the year, raising money at every Eagles tailgate. He wears a QR code around his neck in the parking lot.
Incredible.
And,
what more could you ask for?
Right. So I think that's for me is like we've built this engaged community who feel compelled to be leaders, to give back, to like help mentor new members of our community. So yeah, we have a lot of front runners when it comes to who could raise the most money in 24 hours with no rules.
I'd bet on you.
There we go.
Who would you absolutely never put in charge of planning an event?
I wouldn't put Jason in charge of planning an event. Like that's why he needs to just show up to our event.
If he planned it, what would there be?
Well, that's the thing. I've watched him dream and if you've seen some of his content, it's incredible. But
Cheeseball tank.
Cheeseball tank. He just went and rode roller coasters, his garage beer commercials that are Westerns. He's done like a lot of different things that like come from his own ideas. Yeah. So I think he'd have a lot of ideas. So I'm always like, I want him to dream. Like the one year for the event, the beer bowl, he wanted a greased pole. And, Kylie and I joke like, all right, we'll just figure it out. So we were like, this is your Father's Day gift. We got you the greased pole.
Are you kidding?
And they're like installing a pylon off of the Seattle City Yacht Club. Shout out to Jim because he helped make it possible. So I think he'd be a great idea person, but like the execution and turning that into dollars might be the challenging part for him. He'd be spending all of the money to produce
a greased pole while riding a unicorn on a roller coaster.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, Ryan, lastly, the title of our podcast is Law Meets Life. So what does that title mean to you?
So I was very excited to join Pond Hockey. I think they're like infamous with the way that they're advertising, engaging the community. So I was really inspired by the fact that like we're talking about this organization that serves so many people and then talking to community members who are living life and in my case serving a community. So I felt like we were very mission aligned for this opportunity today. So yeah, I think it's about understanding that you work with organizations who care not just about what they specialize in, but the people behind it and the communities they serve.
Ryan, it's been an absolute honor having you on Law Meets Life. Thank you so much again for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
And thank you all so much for watching another episode of Law Meets Life. Until next time.